A really sudden shift in Nigeria's ruling party, the APC.
All Progressives Congress, yeah.
We're talking about the resignation of its national chairman, Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje. Quite unexpected.
Very much so.
So our mission today is to, well, peel back the layers, look at the official story, sure, but also dig into the speculation, the strategic games maybe being played.
And how it fits into the bigger picture of party politics in Nigeria.
Right. We've looked at several recent reports to try and piece together what's really going on for you.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, let's unpack this. We've seen headlines about a big leadership change in the APC. What's the immediate official story here before we dive into the deeper currents?
Well, the headline news is that on June 28th, 2025, Ali Bukar Dalori arrived in Abuja. He's there to take over as the acting national chairman of the party.
Acting chairman. So who did he replace?
He replaced Dr. Abdullahi Ganduje, who resigned. The official statement, released on Friday, cited health reasons.
Health reasons, okay. And Dalori, where does he come into the picture from?
He was the APC vice chairman for the North, comes from Borno State up in the Northeast.
Got it. So on the surface, it's a quick transition due to health. But what's fascinating here is, well, there's already talk beneath the surface, isn't there, almost immediately?
Oh, absolutely. The official line is health, but sources we've seen are strongly suggesting Ganduje was actually forced out.
Forced out, wow.
Yeah. Daily Trust, for example, had a report citing a, quote, reliable source linking his resignation directly to political maneuvering, looking ahead to the 2027 presidential race.
2027 already, okay.
And here's a really striking detail from those sources. The claim that the head of one of the security agencies actually went to Ganduje's house.
Went to his house.
Around 2 a.m. Friday morning, apparently to demand his resignation letter right then and there.
2 in the morning. By a security chief.
Yeah.
That's intense. That definitely doesn't sound like a voluntary health decision.
No, it really doesn't. And sources close to Ganduje were quoted as saying, we are all shocked. We didn't see it coming.
I bet they were shocked. Especially since, wasn't his last official act something quite recent, like leading a delegation?
That's right. He led members of the National Working Committee on a condolence visit to the Niger state governor. Seemed like business as usual right before this happened.
So the shock seems genuine.
It does. And there were reports of a governor from the Northeast and a prominent Northwest politician, someone known to be close to the president, visiting Ganduje afterwards, described his visits apparently to console him.
Consolation visits.
Right.
That adds weight to the forced exit idea.
Definitely points in that direction.
Here's where it gets really interesting then. What are the underlying strategic reasons being suggested for this sudden move? It sounds like there are at least maybe 2 major factors.
Yes. 2 main threads seem to be emerging from the analysis. First, there is what people are calling the Kwankwaso factor.
Kwankwaso. Senator Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso.
Exactly. The leader of the Kwankwasia movement. So the reports suggest Kwankwaso was seriously considering joining an opposition coalition. The one led by former VP Atiku Abubakar.
Okay, that would be a big move.
Huge. And allegedly, Kwankwaso's condition for not doing that, for potentially rejoining the APC instead, was, well, Ganduje had to go.
Ganduje out, so Kwankwaso could potentially lead the party in Kano. Is that the idea?
That seems to be the calculation, yes. To give Kwankwaso control of the party structure in Kano State, apparently the president got word that Kwankwaso was genuinely thinking about the opposition offer.
And that intelligence might have been the trigger to remove Ganduje quickly.
That's the speculation, yes. It might have forced the issue.
And this ties into party structures, how? You mentioned the upcoming Congress.
Precisely. There's an APC Congress coming up. If Ganduje stayed, it would be much harder politically to bring someone like Kwankwaso or other big names back into the fold because you wouldn't have those state structures readily available to offer them.
Right. You need something concrete to offer them.
Yeah.
So a major chess move for 2027 presidential permutations.
Okay. But that's not the only pressure point, is it? There was something else brewing.
No, it wasn't just about Kwankwaso. Ganduje's chairmanship faced, well, pretty consistent pushback from stakeholders in the North Central zone.
Ah, the North Central. That's where his predecessor, Abdullahi Ganduje, was from, right?
Exactly. And Adamu himself, remember, reportedly had to resign after the 2023 elections. Part of the reason cited then was that he hadn't fully backed Tinubu during the primaries.
Right. I remember that.
So ever since Adamu left, the North Central leaders have been arguing that the chairmanship should return to their zone, not stay in the Northwest, which is Ganduje's region.
So a persistent regional demand adding to the pressure. A very significant one, yeah. It created ongoing internal friction.
This raises an important question. How is the party itself, particularly the governors, framing all of this? Are they admitting there's turmoil, a crisis maybe, or are they spinning it differently?
Well, the APC governors, acting as the Progressive Governors Forum, the PGF, they did acknowledge Ganduje's resignation. This was after a meeting they held in Benin City.
Okay, so they addressed it. What was their take?
Their official line, delivered in a communique read by Governor Hope Uzodimma, who chairs the PGF, they described it as a natural step in the party's ongoing evolution.
A natural step.
Evolution. Yes, that was the phrasing. They said it was in tandem with the party's continued evolution and aligned with internal reforms and adaptation. So very much presenting it as strategic, planned, part of a process, not a crisis.
Interesting choice of words. Evolution. It sounds quite managed. Did they talk about other things at that meeting too?
Yeah.
To sort of project stability?
Oh, yes. They discussed their broader agenda, things like strengthening party unity, promoting development, accountability, government cooperation, standard stuff, but important messaging right now.
And they praised the president's administration too, I gather.
They did. Commended Tinubu's government on various reforms, fiscal policy, food security, energy, infrastructure, social programs, and the big macroeconomic policies like removing the fuel subsidy and unifying the exchange rates.
So trying to show a united front focused on governance despite the chairmanship change.
Exactly. And they also made a point about needing to, quote, further democratize growth through investments in jobs, poverty reduction, small businesses, safety nets.
Right.
And interestingly, they also formally welcomed Governor Umo Ino of Akwa Ibom State into the APC.
Oh, a defection to the APC.
Yes, framing it as evidence of a growing national consensus around Tinubu's policies. So the overall picture they painted was one of forward momentum and unity.
Okay, so that's the public posture. What about the actual mechanics of succession now? Dalori is acting.
Yeah.
What happens next?
Right, so Dalori, Abubakar Kyari Dalori, as Deputy National Chairman North, steps in as acting chair. That's per the party constitution when the chairman's office is vacant. He's expected to hold the fort until the National Convention.
Which is when?
Scheduled for November. And before that, there's talk of an emergency meeting of the National Executive Committee, the NEC.
Formalize things.
Exactly, to formalize the interim setup and likely try to work towards a consensus candidate for the permanent role to avoid a messy fight later on.
So who are the names being floated for the substantive position, particularly from the North Central, which is now asserting its claim pretty strongly?
Well, three main names seem to be circulating from the North Central. First, Senator Umaru Tenko Almakura. He's a former governor of Nasarawa State, a founding APC member, seen as very loyal to Tinubu.
Okay, Almakura. Who else?
Then there's Senator George Akume. He's currently the Secretary to the Government of the Federation, the SGF, also known as a longtime associate of the president.
Okume, right. And the third?
Senator Mohammed Sani Musa. He represents Niger East, often known as 313, another close ally of the president.
So all figures with connections to the presidency. Any potential hurdles for them?
Well, one potential challenge analysts point out is the sort of unwritten rule or tradition within the APC where state governors are seen as the main party leaders in their states.
Wow. So even though these senators are prominent, the governors might have more sway in the internal party dynamics.
It could complicate things, yes. How much influence they can wield against potentially competing interests backed by governors is a question mark.
Okay. Now, if we connect this to the bigger picture, you mentioned Adamu's exit earlier. This isn't the first time the APC has seen its national chairman leave under, let's say, less than clear-cut circumstances, is it? What does history tell us?
You're absolutely right. It's become something of a pattern for the APC. Since the party was formed back in 2013, they've had, 6 national chairmen? And yeah, most of them left office amidst controversy.
6 chairmen in about 12 years? That seems like a lot of turnover at the top.
It is. We just talked about Ganduje's predecessor, Abdullahi Adamu, accusations of being high-handed, tensions over the primaries, forced resignation.
Right.
Before him, you had Adams Oshiomhole. His time was really marked by deep factional fights within the party. It got so bad, the NEC actually dissolved his entire working committee. Allegations included abuse of office, failing to unite the party.
Oshiomhole, yeah, that was quite dramatic.
It was, and even Mai Malabuni, who took over as a caretaker chairman after Oshiomhole, he did manage to attract some high-profile defectors to the party, which was seen as a plus. But he also faced criticism for essentially overstaying his welcome and not organizing the party's national convention in a timely manner. So yeah, a history of turbulence at the chairman position.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? trying to make sense of Nigerian politics right now?
Well, I think this whole episode really underscores just how dynamic and sometimes, frankly, intense the internal power negotiations are within Nigeria's major political parties,
Hmm.
especially, as eyes start turning towards the next election cycle.
It highlights that constant balancing act, doesn't it, between regional demands like the North Central wanting the seat back.
Exactly. And individual ambitions, strategic alliances like the potential Kwankwaso deal, and the overall strategy being driven by the party leadership, presumably the presidency.
And the contrast between the narratives, the official health reasons, versus the widely reported forced exit for political calculations, that tells you a lot.
It really does. It shows you the layers of information the public face versus the likely private maneuvers that exist in these high-stakes political games. It's a reminder that the stated reason isn't always the real reason.
So let's try and sum this up for you. We've seen Ganduji's very swift exit. Officially, health. Unofficially, looks like significant pressure linked to, one, the potential return of
A
Kwankwaso,
big strategic play for 2027.
and two, the persistent demands from the North Central stakeholders wanting the chairmanship back. Meanwhile, the party, through its governors, is pushing a narrative of natural evolution, trying to project stability and focus on governance.
Presenting a united front, despite the clear internal shifts.
And crucially, as we just discussed, this isn't a one-off. It fits into a broader, recurring pattern of leadership changes, often controversial, at the very top of the APC.
Right. And understanding these different layers, the official story, the speculated reasons, the historical context, that really helps you decode what's likely driving major political events like this, going beyond just the surface announcements.
So perhaps a final thought to leave you with. Given this history, this pattern of APC chairmen exiting under pressure and the, let's say, intense internal politics we've just discussed, what does this frequent turnover at the very top imply about the stability, maybe the long-term vision of Nigeria's ruling party as it navigates towards future elections? Something to definitely keep watching.